Hello there, world of tankers, and welcome to the channel. I'm your host, Droodles Blitz, and in today's video I'll be playing in the Tier 10 Japanese Collector Super Heavy, the Type 5 Heavy. This is a vehicle that a lot of my subscribers and one of my moderators kept begging for me to 3-mark. And honestly, this was not a tank that I wanted to 3-mark recently. And the reason why is because it has a very high requirement of XP. As you can see, it requires 281 average XP to get this vehicle to the 95% mark. Now, to put that into your mind on how high of an XP requirement that is, a vehicle like the 5A is 260. A vehicle like the BZ75 is 257. So a lot of the tier 10 heavies in general are pretty low. I mean, E100 is 247. So the Type 5 Heavy is a very, very hard tank to actually reliably 3-mark, especially when you realize that we're in a meta filled with mediums. You're in a tank that has the worst camo values in the game, an incredibly RNG-dependent gun, and when you pair all this together, yeah, it's definitely not an easy task. It took me exactly 100 battles on the dot to get this vehicle 3-marked. It could have been 80 to 70 games, but unfortunately, both times I was at 94.6 something percent on my mark, I got Castilla back to back, and well, as many of you are aware, Castilla is arguably one of the worst maps in the game for a super heavy. So we can actually see here the statistics of my Type 5 Heavy experience. We played 100 games in total, 70% win rate, which is pretty solid, and 3,565 average damage. That actually places me in number 3 for the highest average damage in the Type 5 Heavy in the NA server, and it really just showcases how hard I had to actually carry and win in this tank to achieve those 3 marks. So today, I'm going to be showcasing some battles in the Type 5. This first game on Nube is definitely one of the craziest battles I've had, and I think it's going to be a great showcase of this tank's strengths and weaknesses. See, I consider the Type 5 to be an overpowered tank. I've considered it to be overpowered since day one. And the reason why is because it has an 800 alpha gun. This thing only has 150 less damage per shot than a, 183. It's got the same alpha damage as a Jagdpanzer. But the downside is that you feature much worse, well, camo. I mean, this thing's huge. Look at the size of it compared to the E5 behind me. This thing is freaking huge. And being this large has a couple upsides. The biggest advantage of being large is you look down on enemy armor, so if you get into a face-hugging situation, it's very easy to hit weak points. For example, I had multiple games where I went up against enemy 60 TPs, and when I did, it was very easy for me to hatch the enemy 60 TP, because I'm so tall, I can just look right down onto the hatch. The downside is that other tanks that have really, really good turret armor, it's incredibly hard to hit the weak points on. So in the beginning of this game, we load a premium AP and get a slight low roll of 772 damage into the AMX 50B. Now at this point, I've realized that going for the TVP is a complete waste of my time. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to aim it on the rear of the 50B, and oh boy. Ooh, 1,053. Well, that's gotta hurt. We're now up to 1,825 damage in just 2 shells. While the Type 5 Heavy may not feature a lot of DPM, it definitely makes up for it in just the sheer level of damage per shot this thing has. So we got the M48 Patton, we got the E3. I'm going to move on the enemy E100 here, aiming on the lower plate. Boom! 689 damage. Unfortunately, I do get shot back, and uh-oh, the enemy's starting to hit my weak points. Just like that, we've lost 1,000 health. The thing about the Type 5 is even though it has a lot of hit points, even though it has a decent amount of armor, it's not as good as you'd think. With the way that pen values work nowadays, most players just cut right through you. But, oh my god, 1,000 damage into that enemy T110 E3. I mean, that is insane. And not only that, the E3 screws up the shot, which means now I can drive back up the bridge and potentially get the clear on this player. So we're going to do that right now. 3, 2, 1, boom. There you go. E3 is out of the game. We're up to 4,000 damage now, and there's still 3 tanks left on the enemy team. So we're going to see if I can get just a little bit more. Well, we got the 100 down below. We got the 183 up here. That 183, I'm not really sure what they're doing, but I'm going to aim it on their roof. And boom, 735 damage. That's even a low roll for this tank. Our E100, unfortunately, also low rolls him, bringing him down to 1 health. But at this point, the 183 is basically cooked, and I'm not going to waste my time on him. So what do we have left? Well, the enemy E100 is right over here. So I'm going to aim it on the rear of that E100. I'm going to shoot at the back of its hull so we can light it on fire. There you go. Nice 923 damage. That puts us up to 5,700. You want to watch that go up quite a bit? Well, watch this. Boom, 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 boom. I did lose 700 health, but in return we did over 1,200 to the BZ-75, and that just put me over 7,000 damage. Yes, you heard that right. 7,000 damage. This game here was really just the best of the best when it comes to the Type 5 Heavy. Sure, it's definitely got downsides, but when you're able to get this thing to work, holy crap, does it feel fun. I mean, we actually obliterated everything in front of us. Now, all that's left at this point is an enemy E100, and I'm obviously trying to get there as fast as I can to potentially deal at least a little bit more damage. I have enough health to easily take a shot from this E100. We're just trying to get there. I'm not sure why my E5 is doing what they are. We got Donut Man 56, and then we also got the grill. Now, obviously, the grill can't poke, but it is interesting to see our E5 being so scared when I would have just taken the shot and bled out the E100. Now, I really wanted to load a premium shell and shoot the E100 in the engine deck right there. But I knew that it wasn't a smart play, so I just loaded a standard shell and penned him in the side of the turret for 648 damage, putting us up to not 7,700. The game said I did 7,700 in the corner there, but for some reason, when you take damage from falling or high explosives that damage yourself, it adds that to the damage counter. So I'm not really sure why, but you'll notice when we actually take a look at the post-game results, it'll be around 7,500-ish damage. There you go, 7,560. This one game alone put my markup 9.46%, which makes it one of the most important games when marking my tank. We got 1,768 base XP, and this was truly just a crazy game for the Type 5 Heavy Donut Man. Well, now what we're going to do is take a look at the next game. This one on Canyon. Now, this here was probably when I was at around the 70 battle mark, and up against us we have an E100, Kampfpanzer 50-ton, we got a Foch, okay, we got a Minnow. You're going to notice that this game was interesting. The biggest problem I had with the Type 5 is the actual word big. You see, this vehicle is huge. It weighs over 200 tons, if I'm not mistaken. And the problem is, when you're this large, you are such an easy target. And not only that, everybody wants to tunnel this thing. I'm not even sure why, but every single player wants to tunnel this tank. And because of that, it makes it very hard to have an enjoyable experience. Because when you're driving this thing, and you're trying to make your way over to Base C, for example, everybody's trying to rip you apart. You'll see. You'll see. This game is a great example of that. So we're going to start by crossing over to Base C. We got the enemy T110E5, and okay, not much else. We're going to keep on moving up. Nothing is spotted in the crossings, so I guess for now we're just going to try and dig out this E5. I mean, it's crazy that even the enemy, or the Jagdpanzer on my team, makes... I mean, it just looks small compared to the size of this tank. It's crazy. Okay, so... let's see. Come on. I want to be able to get that E5. Or, you know what, if the E100 wants to drive side on, boom! 805 into that E100. That is just such a crazy roll. But, see that enemy minnow? Well, here we go. Oh boy! I missed tunnel the Type 5 Heavy. Literally just your average, like, YOLOing player. So we have a minnow who YOLOs me, only gets one shot out, but, oh, here we go. I'm a like, what is this dude? You just lost 1,200 health to tunnel my tank, you bounced one of your 2 shells, and your game's over. Really an amazing battle. We aim it on the hatch, and you're dead. Why? Why is this the plays that these people are making? Now, I am 100% knowing that the enemy Foch specifically went out of their way to tunnel me, because they actually typed it in chat. I just have chat turned off. But yeah, they did go out of their way to specifically try and tunnel me, which is kind of wild. It's just the level of, as I said in the past, fatherless behavior. But I don't care. You basically gave me a bunch of free damage, and not only that, you're dead. So... As I keep telling people, these players that are tunneling me are doing nothing but making themselves look like trash on stream, and I'm still going to mark my tank. Just because you give me one bad battle doesn't mean it's going to stop me from marking this vehicle. All it's going to do is have me stream a little bit longer, which I don't even mind. It's my job. So we got the enemy Kampfpanzer. We aiming on the roof. Nice. 750 damage, but oh, there's a Yag there. I didn't know that. Well, that's not good. You can see where the armor starts to not really work on this vehicle. So I'm going to back up. I'm going to back up big time here, and I'm really, really hoping that this Kampfpanzer doesn't focus me. So the KPZ shoots. The problem is, I know that my tank is so tall that if I poke this, I'm going to be in a really bad spot here, so I'm actually just going to wait. I know that the Kampfpanzer is a no-camo player, which means that realistically, they're going to drive around the corner. So I got the pen. Now I just have to hope that because they're bad at the game, they're not going to know how to pen me. So they bounce the first shot. We reload, 8 more seconds to go. Come on. Alright, for some reason the Kampfpanzer is backing up. Alright, well that's not bad. Let's aim it on the Yag's plate. Okay, not able to kill the Yag. Let's load in a high explosive, and boom. 320 damage high explosive, taking the Kampfpanzer out of the game. Pretty good battle so far. 4,745 damage, 2 kills, and yeah, pretty good. I mean, all that's left at this point is the enemy Super Conqueror. So let's see if we can get maybe a shell into the Super Conq. We're going to move up and up. And we don't see anybody here. Oh, there's the Super Conq. All right. Let's roll around the corner, but unfortunately, the Jagdpanzer gets the clear. Either way, pretty good game for the Type 5, as you can see. We were able to deal a decent amount of damage. We were able to support our team, and even though we got YOLO'd by 2 separate players, we still ended up surviving. At this point, I was already up to 91% on my mark, as you can see, so we were slowly but surely increasing it. Now that brings us to probably one of the most frustrating games. This is not the... Oh, no, this is the right battle. I thought for a second this wasn't the right replay. But yes, this is probably the most frustrating game I played in the Type 5 Heavy. Actually, no. Most frustrating game I played was when I was on Castilla and did 700 damage because the entire enemy team was camping on the heavy hill, and I got detected, and every single one of them farmed me out. It was pretty dang lame. But this game here arguably pissed me off just as much, and you'll see why. The start of this game is alright, and I make my way through, fight the enemy. The first thing I always do is I try to capture bases. It's always a question going through my mind, capture base or go for damage. But as always, I've learned that the easiest way to mark your vehicles is by capturing bases. There's a player, Trath, who averaged 4,000 damage in the Type 5 Heavy, and it took them like 80-something games, 82, 85 games to 3-mark the vehicle. And the funny part is, when I was at 94.67% on my mark, I was at around 70-ish games played. I just had I had that 700 damage game on Castilla, and it threw it all the way back down. But the point being, like, even though I was averaging 500 less damage than that player, I still was actually doing just as good as them on the marking percentage. And the reason why is because instead of going for damage, again, I'm going for base caps, occasionally kills, but obviously with 800 alpha, it's hard to go for kills every time. But that's what I've been going for, is I've been going for base cap, I've been going to, you know, different plays. So here we go. I get a nice shot on the grill. Now, here's the crazy part. We shoot that grill for 1,100 damage, right? But even though I hit them for 1,100, they still win this trade. They shoot me back for also 1,100. Now, to be fair, I still have 1,300 health, and they have 500. I have a lot more HP, so technically I'm still the victor. But at the end of the day, the grill still did more damage to me than I actually did to the grill. It's such a good example of where this vehicle's DPM is definitely on the lackluster side. So we got the enemy E6, and I'm not sure why, but they drive out into the open. We get a low roll, only 700 damage, and uh-oh. Yeah, there's just no way I was going to get that bounce, and this tank is so large. But the enemy grill doesn't know I have a shot. Or not a shot, is what I should say. So I'm keeping an eye on the 1-2-1. The grill shoots. I'm going to load an AP. There you go. Get the clear. And now we have the enemy 1-2-1. Now at this point, the 1-2-1 bounces my concept once. And the concept gets a max roll. Okay, the 1-2-1 is trying to pin the concept again. And bounces the concept again. Alright. Then the concept lights him on fire and I don't get any damage. Bruh. Alright, well, that's fine. That's fine. Let's see. We got 3 tanks left. It's a 3 versus 3 right now. And we're up on base cap, so it's looking pretty decent. I need to get over to the VK90, though, and help him as much as I can because my lip is very itchy. I don't know why. But, yeah, I'm going to try and help out my VK90. So here we go. We got the WZ-113G spotted. VK-90 fires a high explosive shell. Oh boy. But we load a premium AP, getting 840 damage into that player. Just like that, we are now over 3,000. You only have to pen 4 shots. This here is where the game really, really pissed me off. And you're about to watch. So the WZ bounces me. That's great, right? We're going to aim in. I just want to point out, this is a fully aimed in shot. Perfectly aligned on the lower plate. We shoot. Goes high. Bounces. That shot alone would have brought the enemy WZ down to about maybe 400 health. And they would have been a one-shot for me. And the concept is actually in the range of a one-shot for me. But nope, no sirree, Bob. What's actually going to happen here is my first shot is going to completely screw me over. So I said, screw it. I'm going to bite the bullet. I'm going to poke this WZ. I'm going to try and shoot him again. So he shoots me for 468. I aim it on the lower plate, fully aimed in. Goes low, underneath, into the track. Yep, 2 shots in a row. That player would be dead right now if my RNG decided to work. Even if one of the 2 shells had penned, it would have been fine. Both of those shells missing now puts me in a situation where I'm a one-shot to the enemy WZ. And even though the concept's a one-tap, it doesn't make a difference. There's literally nothing I can do when the WZ is still at 1,189 hit points. And you can see where the gun on the Type 5 is rather tragic sometimes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just wait for this WZ to potentially poke. Here we go. And boom. I get a 732 damage shot. But that's it. I die because the game screws me over. It's just crazy. We lost this game because of that. Because of my RNG. So all that's left is our concept and the enemy concept. I think HE's him. Yeah, it does HE him in the side. And because of that, we get a loss. I did the best I could. But sometimes when you get games like that, it's really, really hard to enjoy this game, you know. RNG is such a cruel mistress, you know. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it absolutely screws you over. Now, my mark still went up. You can see we went up 0.62 to 93.71. But at the same time, it really pissed me off because if we had won that game and my RNG had worked, my mark probably would have gone up over 1% and maybe even a half because I would have aced it. I would have had a crazy carry. When you have a result like that, it is just so incredibly disappointing. That's really all that I can say. So that brings us to the final game on Yamato Harbor. This is the last game that it took me to 3-mark my Type 5 Heavy. And it's a good matchup. There's only 1 medium against us. There's 3 tank destroyers. I actually don't mind fighting 183s in the Type 5. I mean, obviously I hate going up against 183s. Everybody does. But at least in this vehicle, I have enough armor that I can occasionally get the bounce. And second of all, I have enough alpha that I can literally trade with the 183 pretty evenly. So I don't hate fighting 183s in this vehicle as much as I do in, you know, a Waffenträger, for example. So we get a shot into nothing because our shell misses, and the Type 71 manages to shoot me on the move. I can actually tell you quite confidently the biggest threat to this tank is the Type 71. Because that thing has so much pen, it just never bounces you. It literally butters through you, and because it also has really good armor, you can't reliably deal with Type 71s. It is a really, really dangerous tank for the Type 5. It really is. The best solution I found to dealing with Type 71s was just trying to load HE and shoot them in the turret ring if I didn't have a reliable shot on the hatch or on the upper plate. So, what are we doing here? Well, we're reloading, and there's the Type 71 over poking. Thankfully, we get a nice 736 damage shell. Just like that, we're over 1,000 damage. You can see I'm playing pretty passive here. That's because we don't know where the 183s are. All we know is that there's a Yag. And with that, Yag Panzer in the back there, and with how large this thing is, it's actually going to be really challenging for me to make a play here. So, Type 71 still not doing much. Alright. You can see how hesitant I am to poke this because, again, the Jagdpanzer and the fact that there could be 183s there is just really, really scary. So we can see the IS-4, and I'm really praying right now that, oh, come on, IS-4, poke it, poke it, poke it. Also, I think my Yo's AFK. I think he is, because I even drove, like, in front of him here, and he still never reacted, so I'm just going to assume that our Yo is AFK. But let's move over here. There you go. IS-4. Aiming, aiming, aiming. Still waiting. Come on, do it! Do it! Yes, there you go. 863 damage into the lower plate of the IS-4. Such a good example of where this gun can feel amazing. When you're able to deal that level of damage to the lower plate of a tank that didn't even see you, it's pretty crazy. Now, the enemy Yag is obviously still in the back, and it looks like our Yo is finally awoken from their slumber. I'm not able to pen the Yag's lower plate with a premium shell, but I can with a standard rolling 785. That's pretty nice. That puts us up to 2,700. At this point, I was only like 0.3, 0.4% away from marking the Type 5 Heavy. So all I needed to do was cap a base or get like an extra little bit of damage. So I'm going to ignore that player. We're going to drive over to the mouse, and I'm going to slam a shell right into their turret for 622. Even with that low rolling, because my tank has 700 damage per shot, statistically we should be able to kill this mouse in one more shell. But I really want to get this Type 71 bled. As I keep telling you guys, Type 71s are just so annoying for me to deal with. So I'm going to load in a premium shell, and boom, 841 damage into that player. It does feel just so nice. And just like that, we're up to 4,000 damage. At this point, I was pretty confident that I was going to be able to 3-mark the tank. But this game's not over. We still have 2 tanks left, an enemy FE2 and 5B183, and a Jagdpanzer. Now, this Jagdpanzer was actually somebody who was watching the stream, and at the end of the game, because they knew they were cooked and because they were on reload, they basically decided that they were going to turn side on so I could get the shot into them. With 800 alpha, we load our shell, and we low roll. Oh well. It's not the end of the world. The Yag dies, and we're up to 5,000 damage. All that's left is the enemy FE2 and 5B183. The T124 gets a shell into them, the TVP's on reload, so I just gotta reload slightly longer. 3, 2, 1, boom, 250 damage. Just like that, we did over 5k, 5,185 damage, and we 3-marked the tank. This was not an easy experience. This was definitely one of the hardest tanks I've had to 3-mark. I don't think it was as challenging as the Błyskawica. I do think that that is arguably one of the hardest tanks to 3-mark in the game, but this battle only increased my mark percentage by 0.2%, as you can see. So we were very, very, very barely over the cutoff there. The problem is, as I keep saying, it's just very hard to rack up kills in this vehicle. Because it has such a high alpha damage, you can't get a lot of XP from killing tanks. So instead you have to get XP from dealing damage and capping bases. And because of that, it's really hard to get a lot of average XP. Like an E6, for example, requires 301 XP to 3-mark. But at the same time, the E6 also features crazy good DPM, great mobility, and gun depression and armor, and it has all the capabilities you need in a heavy. This tank does not have those strengths. So because of that, it's very hard to reliably carry in a Type 5 heavy like you can in an E6. But either way, let me know in the comments what you guys think about this vehicle. If you enjoyed the video, let me know, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.